Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining. I will the prayers that we say to the spiritual master.
Jai Shri Ram.
Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last time we talked about Bhava Bhakti, chapter 17. And next time we'll talk about Prema Bhakti, chapter 19. And chapter 18, this chapter, looks at the characteristics of a person who has developed Bhava Bhakti, the characteristics of a person who has developed pure devotional service on the level of Bhava. What are their characteristics? And this is actually a very wonderful meditative chapter, because by seeing this chapter, by reading this chapter, we can actually see like why Srila Prabhupada, why the great souls, why they act in a certain way. This important chapter examines the characteristics of a person who has developed ecstatic love. By studying them carefully, one will understand the difference between the ecstatic love of a genuine devotee and the so-called ecstatic symptoms of a pretender. So we'll be able to see that we'll be able to see these symptoms of Bhava Bhakti present in the activities of the pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada. Of course, they are on Prema Bhakti, but Prema Bhakti includes Bhava Bhakti. So the Prema Bhakta has these characteristics as well. Bhava is spiritual and independent of matter, but manifests at this time in the body of the devotee so that he can experience the spiritual world. It appears through the mental functions and replaces the mind. Though self-manifesting, it appears to arise by the mind, though it does not. Bhava is a taste for Krishna, but it also produces more taste for Krishna and ecstatic symptoms. So bhava literally means taste for Krishna. When we get a special, a feeling of taste, a beautiful taste for Krishna, then that is bhava. And that bhava becomes further manifest when these other ecstatic symptoms start to become manifest. So let's see what these symptoms are. So the symptoms of bhava bhakti, one can neither imitate nor conceal these symptoms. So someone, a lot of people in India or other places, they falsely exhibit the symptoms of bhava, like ecstasy and, I'm getting ecstasy and all these things. But they actually don't have that ecstasy, right? So in the same way, someone can imitate the bhava bhakta. But Rupa Goswami here gives characteristics of a bhava bhakta that cannot be imitated. You cannot imitate this because these things are not things that are cheap that a person can easily, perform, but things that a normal person cannot sustain. So what are these? Avyartha kalatvam, never wasting time, but always engaged in devotional service. This is the quality of a great devotee, never wasting time, but always engaged in devotional service. Shanti, to remain tolerant and patient, even amid great disturbance. The devotee is completely tolerant and patient, even amid great disturbance. Virakti, indifference to objects of sense gratification. No attraction, no repugnance, indifference to the objects of sense gratification. Mana shunyata, pridelessness, no pride. So, why would someone do these symptoms artificially? Why would someone claim that they are on the level of bhava when they are not? That would be because they want honor and respect, meaning they are proud. But the bhava bhakta is prideless. A person who exhibits false symptoms will be attracted to a beautiful man or woman. But the bhava bhakta is indifferent to these things. Again, this is not something you can do artificially. Maybe for some time you can do, for 1 week, for 2 weeks, you can behave like an ascetic. But after that, if a man is imitating like this, a beautiful woman walks by, he'll be attracted. So you cannot do this long-term genuinely unless you actually have that bhava. Then kshanti, to remain tolerant and patient, even amidst great disturbance. We get disturbed. And if something really difficult happens, we will get disturbed, but the pure devotee is undisturbed. Again, you cannot do this cheaply. And this last one, this is actually the first one, which is the most telling. Never wasting a time, always engaged in pure devotional service. So the pure devotee, if they are on the platform bhava, 24 hours a day, they have no other engagement other than the loving devotional service of Krishna. Everything is for Krishna service. Everything is, out of pure devotion for Krishna, only serving Krishna. A materialist who's making a show cannot do that for a sustained period of time. And what avyartha kalatvam really means is that the pure devotee is also not sleeping too much. The pure devotee is so engaged in devotional service that they don't even have time to sleep. Srila Prabhupada was sleeping 2 or 3 hours a day. We have great souls in our movement who sleep 4 hours a day, maximum. So can an ordinary person artificially do this, where they're sleeping 4 hours a day, and throughout the day, the rest of 20 hours, they're fully engaged in devotional service? Well, if someone can do that for a long period of time, permanently, if one can do that, then they are on the level of bhava. So if they're making a show, but that show means that 24 hours are engaged in Krishna service, well, then that means they are in bhava, because like I said, you can do that for a few weeks, for even a month, or even 6 months. But after that, one cannot do it. Prabhupada says one cannot make a show for more than 6 months. One will have to, he doesn't say specifically 6 months, but he says something like that. He says for a few months one can do, but after that one cannot do. And I saw that in the life of great souls. I've never met Srila Prabhupada, but in his disciples, that they're so absorbed, they will not waste a single moment. They cannot even, they even feel that sleeping is a waste of time. Even in their sleep, they're serving Krishna. They're dreaming about Krishna. But that sleep is very little. So here are further reliable symptoms of bhava bhakti. So we continue. Asha bandha, firm faith that Krishna will deliver me. Firm faith that Krishna will deliver one to the highest perfection, even though one feels low and utterly unqualified to achieve it on his own. So this is Asha bandha, firm faith that Krishna will deliver one to the highest perfection. Samutkantha, eagerness for achieving pure loving service. So even the Bhava Bhakta feels that they haven't achieved Krishna, but they have the firm faith and hope that Krishna will give them the highest perfection. Samutkantha, they have great eagerness for achieving this pure loving service. Nama Gane Sadaruchi, constant attraction to chanting Hare Krishna. Asaktis tad guna khyane, addiction to glorifying Krishna's qualities. Pritis tad vasati stale, attachment for living in the dham. They have also great attachment for living in the dham. They always want to live in the temple, even if not in the dham. Like when my Guru Maharaj, when he's traveling, then he has so many disciples in so many cities, and some of his disciples are so well-to-do. They have these beautiful mansions, nice homes and they're willing to make the most comfortable arrangement for him, given, perfect everything. Yet wherever he goes, he wants to stay in the temple. He'll say, I want to stay in the temple. And genuinely he wants to. And he told me even, staying, the temple is actually, I like to stay. The temple is, the atmosphere is very pure. They don't care for the comfort, they care for the atmosphere, the devotional atmosphere. And even if they're devotees, still in the home, there's a feeling of enjoyment, sense enjoyment. In the temple, it's Krishna's the center, it's Krishna's home. So he has so many wealthy disciples, such big mansions they have, but he'll stay in the temple in a simple room that doesn't even have an attached bathroom, but all those things preferable to material comfort. So the temple is non-different than the dham or the holy place. So there's attachment to living in the dham, in the temple. The prime example of that was Srila Prabhupada, also Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So now each one they were going over, so utilizing one's time, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they wrote 80 volumes of books in a matter of a few years. How is it possible? One of Prabhupada's books, they say, will take a normal author 10 years to write. Prabhupada wrote 80 volumes in 10 years. Because not wasting one moment. I mean, we say we don't have time. We don't realize how much time we have. We just don't have the will. We can even think in our own life how much time actually we waste. Just yesterday I was thinking how much time I wasted today, in doing this or that. And actually it was not necessary to waste that time. I could have done, focused it on my service or this or reading or something nicely. So they exhibited this quality in full. No one could keep up with their pace. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a high court judge. He had 9 children, plus he had time to write volumes of books. Plus his son was a pure devotee and he would converse with him and train him. Plus he established places of pilgrimage. Plus he, preached and gave lectures. Plus he chanted, I think 64 rounds. I don't remember exactly how much he was chanting, but he was chanting. He was completely absorbed in his chanting. All of these things, how did he find the time? Because he was utilizing every moment in Krishna's service. Perseverance. The example is given. So now this quality of, so for each example, they're giving examples of great souls who exemplify these examples, these qualities. Example given is of Maharaj Parikshit waiting for death on the bank of the Ganges. Sorry, 1 second. So, examples given to Maharaj Parikshit waiting for death on the bank of the Ganges. So, this is also an example of what of a great soul who is so much in love with Krishna that they are willing to persevere for anything. They're willing to persevere for anything for the Lord. Then the next is detachment. Example is given of Maharaj Bharat. So Maharaj Bharat, he was actually on the level of Bhava Bhakti is described. He was on the level of Bhava Bhakti because he was able to give up his material attachments in a way that no ordinary person can. He had to be on that level. Otherwise, he could not have been on that level. Otherwise, he could not have given up. Bharat Maharaj is the same Bharat Maharaj after whom Bharat Varsha is named. We were discussing this actually last night. So Bharat Maharaj is same as Bharat Varsha. He was such a great king. His opulence had no limit. He was the emperor of the whole universe, the whole world. He was the emperor of. But when it came time to give up everything, the Bhagavatam describes he gave up his kingdom, just like one gives up stool after passing stool. Right? You pass stool in the toilet and no one thinks even for a moment, should I save it? Should I keep it or should I leave it? Does anyone do that on the call? Anyone? No, no one does it. Can you all hear me? Are we still here?
Yes, bro.
Yes, bro, we can hear you.
Yes.
Your picture is frozen, that's it.
Yeah.
My picture is frozen?
Yes, bro.
That's I was noticing this thing was going like this.
Maybe restart your session might work probably.
Okay. I don't know why this happens. Keeps on happening. Okay, I'll rejoin, okay? Hare Krishna. Sorry, I don't know why this happens again and again. Now I have to share my slides again. 1 minute. I have a relatively new Microsoft Surface book, and I got it just for this reason that Zoom will work well, but it doesn't work. This is okay, and okay. Okay. So Bharat Maharaj, he gave up the material world and his material attachments in the same way Bhagavatam describes one gives up stool after passing. So detached. Therefore, he was on the platform Bhava. Now, of course, after that, we know that he gets attached to a deer. And because he gets attached to the deer, he again has to take another life, which shows that even on the level of Bhava, one can still fall down. Only on the level of Prema, one never falls down, which is the highest level, which we talk about next week in chapter 19. But a fundamental quality of Bhava that cannot be imitated is detachment. There are two types of detachment, Vairagya and Virakti. Before one achieves the stage of Bhava, he may be able to manifest Vairagya. He can keep himself forcibly separated from the objects of sense gratification and thus control his senses. At the stage of Bhava, however, one manifests a superior type of detachment. This superior detachment is Virakti, wherein one completely loses all taste for the objects of the senses. Thus, his senses remain entirely controlled, even if he is directly in the midst of sense objects. We didn't cover this last time, did we? Somehow I was remembering that we'd covered this, but I don't think we did. So this is the difference between Vairagya and Virakti. Vairagya is, when we give up, very difficult. I gave up eating mangoes on Ekadashi or whatever, it's like some or the other. We're not eating grains and, we have duct tape over our lips to somehow remind us that it's Ekadashi, don't eat grains. And Virakti is when this is a superior detachment. One doesn't have a taste for it. It's like children have a taste for candy, so much candy they eat candy. And once you're like 35, 40 years old, you just lose your taste for the candy. You see candy and you don't feel anything. Children see candy and they get goosebumps. So one is that a child can give up their candies to not eat too much candy. That's Vairagya. But an adult who has no taste left for candy, but now he has other attachments, but no taste for candy, that's Virakti. So Bhava Bhakti detachment is on the level of Virakti. That's Bharat Maharaj's detachment, not just on the level of Vairagya. This is due to an experience of a higher taste. Pridelessness. King Bhagirath was the emperor above all other kings, yet he developed such ecstatic love for Krishna that he became a mendicant and went out begging even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. He was so humble that he respectfully bowed down before them. Such a nice verse. Generally, we hate our political enemies. We hate our people who made us look bad or put us down, we don't like people like that. But Maharaj Bhagirath was so prideless. He was so advanced in spiritual life. He was so spiritually enlightened that once he became, filled with this ecstatic love, it didn't matter. None of his, things mattered. He was offering respectful obeisances to everyone. his enemy, his friend, everything was the same to him. Great hope. I have no love for Krishna. So this is Asha Bandhu, right? We said Asha Bandhu. Hope against hope. This is how the Bhava Bhakta feels. Although they're above the stage of Raganuga, they're in love with Krishna. They have ecstatic love for Krishna. This is how they speak. I have no love for Krishna, nor for the causes of developing love of Krishna, namely hearing and chanting. And the process of Bhakti Yoga, by which one is always thinking of Krishna and fixing his lotus feet in the heart, is also lacking in me. As far as philosophical knowledge or pious works are concerned, I don't see any opportunity for me to execute such activities. But above all, I'm not even born of a nice family. Therefore, I must simply pray to you, Gopi Janna Vallabha, Krishna, maintainer and beloved of the gopis. I simply wish and hope that some way or other I may be able to approach your lotus feet. And this hope is giving me pain, because I think myself quite incompetent to approach that transcendental goal. I simply that somewhere or the other I may approach your lotus feet. I have no knowledge, I have nothing, no good qualities, everything is lacking in me. But my only hope is that some way or the other I may approach your lotus feet. Srila Bilva Mangala Thakur, in his book Krishna Karnamrita, he says, I am eagerly waiting to see that boy of Vrindavan, whose bodily beauty is captivating the whole universe, whose eyes are always bounded by black eyebrows and expanded like lotus petals, and who is always eagerly glancing over his devotees and therefore moving slightly here and there. His eyes are always moist, his lips are colored like copper, and through those lips there comes a sound, vibration, which drives on madder than a mad elephant. I want so much to see him at Vrindavan. So eagerness for achieving the desired success. This is from Krishna Karnamrita, that Bilva Mangala Thakur, exhibiting a devotee who's on the level of bhava or prema, is so eager at every moment, cannot wait. Every moment is like 12 years or more, right? When will I be able to see that boy in Vrindavan? When will I be able to see that boy whose beauty captivates the whole universe, whose eyes are always bounded by black eyebrows and expanded like lotus petals, and who is always eagerly glancing over his devotees? When can I see that person? So Bhava Bhakta has so much eagerness. That's the intensity of their devotion. They have so much eagerness to serve the Lord, not just see the Lord. See, eagerness for achieving the desired success, eagerness for being successful in one's service. I was actually initiated by letter by my Guru Maharaj. And in the letter he wrote, be determined to succeed spiritually. Be determined to succeed spiritually. Now, generally, like in the Gita, we say a devotee is undisturbed in success or failure. Success, failure doesn't matter, everything's the same. But in the case of spiritual life, in the case of serving the Lord, a devotee wants to succeed. Be determined to succeed spiritually. Attachment to chanting the holy names. O Lord Govinda, the girl who is the daughter of King Rishabhanu, Srimati Radharani, is now shedding tears, and she is anxiously chanting your holy name, Krishna, Krishna. So what to speak of us? Even Srimati Radharani is chanting Krishna's holy names. Even Srimati Radharani is chanting Krishna's holy names. Just imagine. Next one, eagerness to describe the glories of the Lord. Again, this is from the Krishna Karnamrita, Bilva Mangal Thakur. Another example, he's exhibiting in that same book. This is eagerness to describe the glories of Krishna. What shall I do for Krishna, who is pleasing beyond all pleasurable conceptions, and who is naughtier than all restless boys? The idea of Krishna's beautiful activities is attracting my heart, and I do not know what I can do. So he is eager to glorify the Lord. He's saying, what can I do other than glorify the Lord? And his Krishna Karnamrita is a manifestation of that eagerness, of that intensity, that desire to glorify the Lord. Attraction for living in a place of the Lord's pastimes. In the Padyavali it said, in this place, the son of Maharaj Nanda used to live with his father, and who was king of all cowherd men. In this place, Lord Krishna broke the cart in which the Shakata Asura demon was concealed. At this place, Damodar, who can cut the knot of our material existence, was tied up by his mother Yashoda. So, in the Padyavali, it's glorifying that place. This is the place where all these things happened. This is the Lord's abode. This is Vrindavan Dham. So there's such an attraction because of the recognition of the sacredness, of the importance of that place. The holy places, they're places of access to the spiritual world. The pure devotee can access them anywhere. But just like you have a stove, right? You can get heat anywhere, but just like when you have a stove, there's certain circles where the heat comes out of. You put your hand somewhere else, you don't feel the heat. When you keep it there, you get burnt. So in the same way, on this planet Earth, everywhere we can see the Lord's presence, but there's certain places, the holy places, where there's a special access way, special heat coming out, and permeating everything. So those special points or places are Vrindavan Dham. Actually, did I continue recording? Okay, let's continue this recording still. What about seeming ecstatic symptoms that appear in non-devotees or beginners? So, sometimes when we join Krishna consciousness, we feel ecstatic, or once in a while, we just feel ecstatic. We, may be in touch with a pure devotee, and in their association, we're feeling ecstatic, or there's the Lord's Abhishek going on, and while the Abhishek goes on, we start feeling ecstatic. Reflective ecstasy can appear in someone who approaches the Lord with ulterior motives, as in wanting liberation. Reflective ecstasy can appear in someone who approaches the Lord with ulterior motives, as in wanting liberation. Simply by the association of such pure devotees, the moon-like rays from their hearts reflect on him, and by the influence of the pure devotees, he may show some likeness of attachment. So this is the reflective ecstasy, that though we don't actually possess it, but somehow gets reflected on us. Due to the mercy of the devotee, due to the mercy of the Lord, we get that feeling of bhava, though we're not on the platform of bhava. So even though we have some ulterior motive, still that ecstasy appears. What about seeming ecstatic symptoms that appear in non-devotees or beginners? Shadow ecstasy can appear in someone who is more innocent, doing service out of curiosity or for social reasons. So once in a while, you'll go in the Vrindavan temple, and there people are dancing in ecstasy, or people go on parikrama, Govardhan parikrama or something, and they just feel ecstatic. This is called shadow ecstasy. So there's reflective ecstasy, there's shadow ecstasy. But in both cases, one is uh, it is just because of a special mercy or association that we receive. Such shadow attachment or para attachment can develop if one associates with a pure devotee or visits holy places like Vrindavan or Mathura. So such shadow attachment, all these things can develop when one associates with a pure devotee. The association is very important, like I mentioned, and visiting places like Vrindavan or Mathura. In the Dham also we get that. And that's why, we go to the Dham once. I experienced this in my life, and we experience something. It's just like Vrindavan Dham, some special ecstasy, some mercy there. And then every year we want to go back because we remember that feeling, that great feeling of ecstasy, of happiness that we felt by visiting the Dham. And that feeling draws us back. Why? Because pressure points, right? Heat points. There's some special mercy. Though we're not qualified, though we're not on the platform of bhava, we're still feeling those feelings of bhava simply because of that association of that pure devotee or the association of that place. And that place, we really get it because of the pure devotees in that place. So it comes from the association of devotees. What about seeming ecstatic symptoms that appear in non-devotees or beginners? Both come from the mature ecstasy of a pure devotee. Reflective ecstasy is more intense, like a reflection is more bright and clear than a shadow. But shadow ecstasy is termed transcendental, when the person feels some relief from material pangs and desires. So it depends. Now, even the ecstasy that we may receive due to the association of a pure devotee is of different types. If it's very intense, it's reflective. If it's less intense, it is a shadow. Just as a shadow or reflective ecstasy comes from the association with pure devotees, so by an offense to the devotees, one's attachment can become almost nil. Right? So, on the other hand, we work so hard in spiritual life, but if we offend a devotee, then also our attachment can become almost nil. If it is seen that a person has developed a high standard of devotion without having undergone even the regulated principles, it is to be understood that his status of devotional service, which it was achieved in a former life. For some reason or another, it had been temporarily stopped, most probably by an offense committed at the lotus feet of a devotee. So, Krishna is so kind. No, nothing is permanent, but in terms of leaving Krishna consciousness. But if we get a high standard of devotion, all of a sudden, you see some devotees, they join Krishna consciousness, and at the age of 18, they're ready for sannyas. There's many devotees like that. They're brahmacharis, no attraction. How is it possible, you think? They're in a place where there's beautiful women all around them, yet no attraction. That is because they developed their spiritual life in a previous life and received the mercy of the devotee in this life and in a previous life. But if somehow or the other, then all of a sudden they fall down and say, oh, see, the process doesn't work. No, it works, but maybe they then offended a devotee. And because of that, temporarily their advancement stopped, but then it will recontinue. Even at the stage of bhava, a person may apparently have some faults that are the last remaining traces of sinful reactions. Such should be overlooked as one ignores the spots on the moon. Attachment for Krishna is transcendental bliss. Amid unlimited volumes of transcendental bliss, a spot of some material defect cannot act in any way. So there could be some faults. And the thing is that these faults are not faults, because amid all the wonderful unlimited volumes of bliss that that devotee gives, that that devotee shares, that that devotee has, all the wonderful things that that devotee is doing, if there's some small material defect, it can be overlooked. Because sometimes we look at great devotees and genuinely we see that they do genuinely something wrong, and we think, how is this possible? They're a pure devotee, how is it possible? It is possible, because maybe they're on the level of bhava but not prema, and they still have some defects, still some cultural things that are still with them, and because of that they are averse to something, and they say something wrong or do something wrong. Not a major thing, but I'm speaking of small things here. And if we criticize them for that, then it's an offense, because in the moon there's also spots, but that doesn't mean that we can criticize the moon. The moon is so beautiful. The moon is giving its cooling rays to so many people. In the same way, the devotee is doing so wonderful service for Krishna and for everyone, and sacrificing his life for everyone. And if there's some mistakes within bounds, then we have to not judge the devotee because of that, but rather see his positive qualities, see the good. And that is the end here. So the chapter ends with this sort of word of caution for both, that with all these wonderful qualities, don't expect a perfect person. They will still have some small faults. But even though they have those small faults, don't criticize them for that, or they're not very important, those faults. And even those faults go away because of their attachment to Krishna. Okay, perfect timing. So we'll stop here. Are there any comments or questions, corrections? This is a very straightforward chapter, but very beautiful chapter. Yes, Gopal Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Pranam.
As usual, beautiful class, but particularly this class is some of the important topics which we, at least I'm talking about myself, faces the issues on not the issues, but just like thoughts that you raise the point, like a beginner, new devotee feels the ecstasy, and what could be the reasons. Beautifully explained, very nice. But the association of the devotees, even though it is temporary ecstasy, what is the process to make it permanent, and how a person can grow further? Got the little taste, and how it persists.
Yeah, so actually that taste, that ecstasy that Krishna gives is so that we can grow further. It's like once you know the goal, then you can really make an effort to achieve the goal. On one hand, you need to be qualified for the goal, but if you don't know the goal, you won't aspire for it. So we really shouldn't be getting that bhava, but Krishna's giving it to us so we can get a small taste so that we can actually develop it. So people come to Krishna consciousness and initially they feel so much ecstasy and they say, then what happened? Well, what happened is exactly what's supposed to happen. Krishna gave us the taste of, okay, this is when you're really advanced, this is how you're going to feel all the time. And that's how we feel in the beginning. But then Krishna wants us to purify ourselves to actually come factually on that platform so that we can actually experience that taste. By our, a mature understanding of Krishna consciousness. So that taste is really something wonderful. And so Krishna is giving that to increase our longing for him. And if we are very sincere and if we're doing the process nicely, we are, doing Mangalarati, chanting our rounds every day, reading some a little bit, but chanting our rounds nicely every day, then we will feel this taste from time to time. In our chanting, we will start to feel some little ecstasy, just a little bit from time to time. So Krishna will keep giving that taste because we're sincerely trying to please him.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I'll let others ask questions.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Prabhu, you can ask. I think others. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really very interesting topic, and we start the journey,
Mm,
and when we reflect back from the past, that the day one was really beautiful.
mm,
Why that day one is not the everyday?
mm,
Uh, I mean, even if we try to do our best, but the taste is not all the time the same,
mm,
and kind of sometimes because we are all uh, born with this so many responsibilities, it becomes like a little bit of a um, hopeless. I should not say hopeless word, but little bit like concerning that why not progressing, what can we
mm,
do?
mm,
So in such times, how do we strengthen ourselves?
mm,
That no, like you touched that point also, like I think I'm not recollecting correctly, you touched that point in one of the slides also. Just trying to more emphasize on that point, that how do we stay strong even though
mm,
those feelings of downtime comes. How
mm.
strong.
So, well, um, by keep going, because those downtimes are part of the process of bhakti. In the Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Ghanatarala is one of the stages in our path of devotion. Ghanatarala means that sometimes we're inspired and sometimes we are not. Like um, whenever we go on book distribution, we will feel super, super enthusiastic. But before we go, we'll never want to go. I've experienced this. Like before you go, you're like, oh, I don't want to go. But then once you go, then you feel so inspired. And but you remember, I will feel good. So I somehow have to go. I have to just get on the street. I have to do it. I have to, go to Patel Brothers or whatnot. So, so we have to do it. We have to do it. And actually, if we do things that are very pleasing to Guru and Krishna, then we feel that ecstasy. Like book distribution is a very good example that um, we try so many different styles and things of preaching, but if we actually just distribute books, if we when we distribute books, we'll see we actually feel very blissful, very blissful. Prabhupada has given it, and again he asked us to do it, and we'll feel blissful. And when we're distributing books, then Krishna will also send very sincere people. So if we're thinking, oh, I'm doing this preaching program, but people are not coming, how do I get people? Very simple way of getting people is through book distribution, Krishna then sends those people to buy the book. And after they buy the book, if you just, on your phone, you just write down their name and number, ask them, what's your name, sir? What's your phone number? We have a nice group. I want to add you. And you add their name and number and call them, they'll come. Amazingly, they will come. There's the special, it's like the whole city is there. And whoever is really special and needs to get Krishna's mercy, Krishna will send them to the book table or send them to that devotee, and they will come. So, so we just if we do things that are pleasing to, it's not that really that there's something special in this process or in this strategy, but if we please Prabhupada and the Acharyas by doing what they wanted us to do, what they want us to do, then Krishna reciprocates. Like very short story, and then we'll end with that. That one time I heard this story from one devotee recently. That one time Radhanath Maharaj, in the very early days when he was doing like home programs in the Ohio area, something like that, he went to someone's home who they were doing a Bhakti Vriksha program in their home. It's a new center, small center somewhere. And the devotees were complaining that, no one is coming. People are not coming. We're just getting 10, 15 people every week. And so Maharaj said, so are you going on Sankirtan? He said, no, we're not able to. So he said, let's go on Sankirtan. And so he took all the devotees out on Sankirtan on like Saturday. And then that following day, on Sunday, 45 people came to the temple. They went on Sankirtan, did Sankirtan book distribution, 45 people came. And so all the devotees were thinking, see, we went on Sankirtan, we distributed books, we advertised, and now people are here. So then Maharaj was giving the class, and at the end of the class, he asked people, he said, how many of you came here because you received a book or an invitation? And no one raised their hand. He asked again, no, anyone received a book? We were out yesterday. Anyone received an invitation? Like one person raised their hand. And then after that, Maharaj told the devotees, he said, see, the reason why people came today was not because we distributed books or invitations. But the reason why people came today is because we went out on book distribution and we gave invitation. We did Sankirtan yesterday. We went out on book distribution, did Harinam. And now Prabhupada and the Acharyas are pleased, and therefore they have sent people for the program.
Wow.
Yeah, see? Yes. So it's not just that even that, oh, book distribution is this amazing way that Prabhupada was such a genius. He showed us this is the way how people come. No, the point is pleasing Krishna and the spiritual master. When they did what Prabhupada asked them to do, and Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada, they become so pleased when we go on Sankirtan. Then he started sending people. So this is, I think the answer that comes to my mind, that if we're feeling that stagnant moment, then we have to just do something that pleases them, and Krishna will reciprocate.
Hare Krishna. Wow.
Krishna.
I'm convinced totally.
Thank you, bro. Yes.
The way you explain every time, things are so crisp and clear. My goodness.
Yes. Well, that is, Prabhupada's mercy. He makes it so crystal clear for us, so simple for us, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Okay, Krishna. Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
There's one more. If others have question, can I ask one more?
Let's finish it anyway. Yes, go ahead, please.
So you refer the Krishna Karnamrita, Bilmangal Thakur's references, and it's been a pondering question. Bilmangal Thakur's devotion and attachment to Krishna was a different flavor, and one of them is very, maybe I'm wrong. He's meditating on the Bal Sarup kind of like, or like middle-aged kind of Krishna's love. So am I missing, like, did he also explain like Madhurya Bhav in those Karnamrita, Krishna Karnamrita, and some of those?
I don't know actually, but it's a very celebrated book, and he is meditating on Krishna as a cowherd boy, like, as a young boy. I don't think, actually, I don't know the answer to that question. But from what we read, it's more just Krishna as the boy, the childhood boy eating butter. That's the mood that what I've read. But maybe there's some Madhurya Bhav there as well. I don't know. Yes.
I was just curious. So thank you.
Yes. The good question, actually. So, Krishna Kishore Prabhu, I think you had some.
Hare Krishna, Dhanapram. It's a wonderful class, Prabhu.
Thank you.
I have no question, but I just comment on that.
Yes.
That last week I met the devotee in Chicago, right? So I think he just shared his experience how he come to temple and right. So he shared I think he connected through your book distribution. So it's all glories to you. I think Patel others. So it's a wonderful service, Prabhu. I think maybe I'll get some inspiration from you. So.
Actually, Krishna Kishore Prabhu came to Naperville for the opening last week, and he stayed with one of our friends here, and so that's why he's recounting this. But actually, for one thing, I'll tell you, ever since I started book distribution, it's my most favorite service, like regularly. And now it's like, before is like, Bhakti Shastri and this or that was my favorite thing, and now it's like, whenever I have free time, if I want to expand something, it's always in book distribution, because I tried so many different techniques for calling people, bringing people, preaching, and I just saw that actually it's so true. Prabhupada, like, whatever he says is so true, that the same thing is so easy through book distribution. Krishna just sends. Of course, we also have a very nice city here, very large city in a nice spot. You know, these things are helpful. In a small town, sometimes it's not so easy. But the point is that it's really something amazing that how book distribution is there's so much reciprocation there. And I always used to struggle how to bring people to the program, right? You start a home program and how to get people there. That's the hardest part. But the way to get it is through book distribution. Even I'll go to the temple and I'll meet people there in the temple who've come there, and they're in touch with ISKCON or something beforehand. I'll invite them for program and they don't come. They may or may not come like that. But if I go book distribution, then some people from that group, they will come. Like those people are so special. And how is it that I'm meeting them? Because Krishna wants them to get that book, and because Prabhupada is happy.
So,
Yes.
Well,
we are just trying to follow in your footsteps, all of your footsteps, all of you in your yatras. You're hearing about my yatra, that's why we're doing that. But in Farmington Hill, and it's like amazing what all of you are doing, and in Michigan, New Jersey. So this is, this is just, I'm just starting actually. All of you are really the ones preaching. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for your very kind attention. So the homework was posted. Please keep doing your homework. Next week is the last week for Nectar of Devotion, and then we have the exam. So I'll discuss that more next week once we're done with the class. Then there's the Nectar Devotion exam. Thank you.
So Prabhu, do you know when is going to be exam?
Whenever you like, because the exam is ready, and as soon as we finish this, I'll send it out. You send me an email and I'll send it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.